Hello and welcome back to My Own Worst Enemy. It is time to continue along with the Battle of Eutaw Springs and the Great Battles of the American Revolution series. If you will remember from last turn, the Americans had advanced down the road towards the plantation and they were not able to destroy the foraging party. They disrupted it and sent it running back towards the British lines. So we're sure that some of those foraging party members actually made it back and warned the British that, hey, the Americans are marching down the road. So what that's going to mean is the British are going to have the initiative for this turn, turn number 3. So let's go ahead and zoom into the turn track and take a look at what's going on here. So here's turn number 3. You can see we have a stack of reinforcements coming in. So we're going to take care of that in just a second. So let's go ahead and take the game turn marker. We will flip this now to show that the British will now have the initiative here because they were warned about the advancing Americans, so they will have the initiative, and this stack of units will deploy now. So let's take a quick look in here and see what we've got. We've got the Swamp Fox coming in, and the Swamp Fox can enter either 3A or, 2A or 3B. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can get this to focus. You can see there he can come in at 2A or 3B. And what that means is he could have come in on turn number 2 in the A hex, or turn 3, which it is now, in the B hex. So we'll show you where that is. This militia unit, South Carolina militia unit, is with the Swamp Fox. So we're going to put that up at the B hex, and I'll show you where that is in just a second. The rest of these units are all 3A, and so we'll start with them, and I'm going to go ahead and move those on over to the A hex now. And so we will break apart that stack and take a look at it in just a second. And like I said, we'll also do that with Swamp Fox. I'm going to put the Swamp Fox up on hex B. Swamp Fox and the South Carolina militia. So let's go ahead and zoom back out, and I will show you where I've placed those. So that the majority of the stack is here. I placed it just north of the A entry hex. Swamp Fox and the militia unit, that is up here in hex B. So that's where they will come in. And so when it is their turn, that's where they will start from. I'll go ahead and just leave this stack here for now because, like I said, it is the British turn. They have the initiative, so they're going to get to go first here. And one last thing to remember is the Americans still have one of these momentum chips that they can play. Haven't played that yet, so we've got to remember that that is an option as well. So let's go ahead and just step down the sequence of play again. I got a little ahead of myself there, but that's okay because this scenario is so small. The way I got ahead of myself is I placed these units. Really, technically, that would happen in the Americans' turn, not the British turn, but I just went ahead and put those out there, so it's not a big deal. Of course, the first thing we do is place the reinforcements. There's none for the British in this turn, so we go right on into disrupted units may move only 1 hex. So we do have a disrupted unit, and it can only move 1 hex. That's the foraging party. So the foraging party is now going to move down the road 1 more space. And some other things to know about this disrupted unit. And again, it is a foraging party, so there's even more special things to consider that we already learned about in the previous turn. But one thing about disrupted units, you just saw they can only move 1 hex per turn. They can't attack. Of course, like I said, the foraging party can't do that anyway. They can only defend with half of their strength points. They have no zone of control. That's important because if we want to run around this foraging party instead of destroying it, we could do that. But it has no zone of control. Will become shattered if it receives an additional disrupt result, and it is captured if they receive a pin result. May not attempt rally in the rally phase if adjacent to enemy combat units. All right, so we've moved our disrupted unit. Going back now to the sequence of play for the movement phase. Reminder that shattered units may not move. Pin units may move, so we're not worried about any pin movements. And then units may conduct strategic move. So that will apply here for the British because there's no special scenario rules saying they cannot conduct strategic moves. So let's zoom in and take a look now at how the British want to move. And we can see here that remember that these perimeter hexes are there to kind of keep the historical flavor to the game and not have, the advanced knowledge of what's going to happen here with the Americans looting the British camp. So what happens, though, the way this is encouraged in game mechanics is that as soon as American combat units occupy or even pass through any of these 7 hexes, the British player will lose 1 step of army morale, and that adjustment occurs immediately, so it's a one-time thing. So the Americans would have to pass through 4 of those for that morale drop to occur. So with that in mind, I think the British are going to definitely want to try to keep the Americans from doing that. So we're just going to start up here with our first unit, and we will move him. Well, let's see. We will move him. Who's under there? Take a quick look and see what's under there. There is a light infantry unit with a very strong morale, +2. 2 strengths, can move 4, and then Marchbanks is the leader with him. Do we want to move Marchbanks with this unit? Probably. So with that in mind, and the other thing to consider here is, so we've got these perimeter hexes we want to protect, and the other thing is we need to consider terrain. So let me grab the terrain effects chart. My thinking is, march these British units out and stand on those hexes, but if we do, then we're giving these wooded areas to the American units so they can come in there and take shots at us from the woods. And I'm going to grab the terrain effects chart here just to see what that would mean. Let's see if we can look at that together. I don't know if I can get this on the camera or not. No, I could do it that way, but then you can't really see it. But what it says basically is for forest hexes, for combat, there's no effect. So close combat, of course, there's no effect. So if we did have the British standing here and the Americans ran up into these forested hexes, and we decided as the British to engage close combat, there would be no die roll modifiers. However, if there were a rifled unit, an American rifled unit in the woods, and we were trying to, let's see, no, I take that back. If we had the rifled unit and we were firing into those woods, there would be a -1 modifier. So that's maybe a reason to not go into the woods, but we only have, I think, 1 rifled unit up here. Yep, with this, underneath this New York Volunteer unit. So each side has 1 rifled unit. So maybe it doesn't matter if I have these guys go into the woods or not. Maybe we just want to have them stand valiantly in front of their encampment. I don't think overall that it's a big deal if we have them. If we give up the woods to the American forces, they're still going to have to close combat in advance, and it's no effect for being in the woods either way. So with that in mind, maybe we just want to march forward here. And so we're looking at Marchbanks, of course, can go 6. The unit underneath it can go 4. Strategic movement is in play, so I could just move Marchbanks forward 1. And what else do we want to do? So let's go ahead and continue along here. It's a pretty powerful British unit here. The Irish, what does that say? Irish buffs. So maybe we just want to move units forward. Now we do have Swamp Fox up to the north there with the South Carolina militia we're going to have to worry about as well. And I'm also looking at the terrain. So there's a fence that runs around this encampment, but looking at the terrain effects chart, that has no effect on combat or movement. So we do not have to worry about that. So I think I'm just going to bring these units forward. We'll have the Irish unit here go 1, 2, 3 and stop there. Here's another strong unit down here. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3. This unit's going to go 1, 2, 3. Here we have some, let's see, that's 4 strength points worth of units. We're just going to move them 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, strategic movement is in play here, so it doesn't really matter what. Well, it does matter, but I'm not super concerned about movement factors here. They certainly all, I think, have enough potential movement to get to where I want to take them. So here's another leader back here. Let's see what's in here. Like we've got a Dragoon unit there. We may want to take advantage of that. We might send that Dragoon up to harass Swamp Fox. Here we've got, there's an artillery unit, so we may want to get that up. That can move 3. And actually, we probably want to put that right in the road here. So we've already got 4 strength points, but I don't think with the artillery, that would give us 6, so it doesn't matter. I was going to say, I don't think the artillery would violate the 6 strength point stacking limit. I think we're going to move, so this one can move 3, 1, 2, 3, but remember strategically, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to bring the artillery forward. And then this unit was here. May want to leave a unit behind, I don't know. And then in here we have, of course, the overall leader, Stewart, and some grenadiers, it looks like. We got another leader here, Coffin. And that's the Charleston Dragoons there. And that rifled unit, so we may want to send the rifled unit up to engage that rifled unit that's coming in with Swamp Fox. So maybe we want to do that. And maybe I'll just move that unit or units last so we can see how I move those up north to the map there. So in the meantime, though, let's go ahead and move this Dragoon unit. Can go 6. So if I do move the rifled unit to engage the Swamp Fox rifled unit, it can move 4, so it can move 8. So 1. I'm gonna have to. We'll do that when I get up to the. I think I'm going to do that. Let's go ahead and move. The Dragoon unit can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to take a look at that creek side. There is a creek there. You can see. You cross that creek. It is a +1. It would be added into the whatever that, well, it's clear, so it would be 1 + 1 would be 2, so it would be 2 to cross that hex side. And there's a note that says, moving across a hex side containing both a creek and a slope still only costs +1 movement point. Okay, well, there's no slopes to worry about there. So this Dragoon can move, let's see, the Dragoon can move 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It will take him just across the creek side. I'm going to do that, and I'll show you where he ends up because we're going to move that rifled unit with him. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can actually see it there. I don't have to move it north. So actually, yeah, let's go ahead and move that rifled unit. It's going to go with the, so it'll be 1, 2, 3. I'm going to keep them together. So that's the movement for the rifled unit and that Dragoon. And then this New York Volunteer is going to advance. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to have this one 1, 2, 3. I'm going to bring Coffin. I'm just going to bring back to here. I think that way we can figure out where we want to send him if we want to do a close combat, or we can also use him to, using his adjacency, I believe will let us, I think it's pick tactics. We'll have to look at that. And then Stewart and this Grenadiers unit, I'm going to leave in place for now. They are actually in the plantation home. And if we think we need to bring them out, we will. So I think that's going to be it for movement. Let me grab the sequence of play again. All right, so conduct movement, can use strategic movement. So that's going to, yeah, that'll do it for our movement for the British. So let's go ahead and zoom back out again. Actually, let's stay zoomed in because the next thing we do is the rally phase. And we do a morale check for, it says, each friendly disrupted unit or shattered unit that's not adjacent to an enemy unit. So we do have a disrupted unit here. So let's go ahead, that foraging party, again, it's kind of a useless thing at this point, but let's go ahead and do it. We're going to do a morale check for the foraging party to see if it can become out of its disrupted state. The first thing I'm going to do is grab the exclusive rulebook for Eutaw Springs just to double check, and always do this, double check there's no changes to the morale checks for this particular scenario. And looking through the rules, I see nothing that would affect the morale check here. So a morale check, we're going to roll a d6 or I'm sorry, a d10. And if the result is 5 or greater, then the unit will pass the morale check. And of course it tells us, this is in the series rulebook, to apply the following modifiers to a morale check die roll. +1 if the defending units are attacked solely across an unbreached fieldworks hex side. No, that's going to apply. and then plus whatever the leadership die roll modifier is. So a leadership die roll modifier would be if there is a leader that is with the combat units in the hex. There's not, it's just the forging party. So I'm not seeing any die roll modifiers here for this forging party. I think it's just going to be a roll, just a roll of the D10, and they're looking for a 5 or greater. So let's see if we can get the dice tower slightly into frame. So here we go. The forging party is trying to rally, looking for a 5 or greater. And they roll a 4, so they're still disrupted. They've got the Americans chasing after them, and they're still shaken pretty badly by that. So that's going to do it for the rally phase because there's no shattered units or remaining disrupted units. Now we go into defensive artillery fire. So defensive artillery fire, we do have an artillery unit here, but his range is only 3. Again, you want to double check the exclusive rules for Eutaw Springs to double check that the range fire is 3, and it is. I can't see anything in here where it says artillery has a longer range than 3. Well, there is a special British artillery fire, so let's take a look at that real quick. Now, this is just concerning firing into melee, but we're not there. That takes us out of the defensive artillery fire phase. Now we go into the rifle fire phase. They're not within range to conduct rifle fire here. Now, one thing that you do at the beginning of the game, and I didn't do it here because there's only 2 units that have this, but I'll go ahead and show you this now. One thing that you do is you apply these first fire die roll modifier chits to the rifled units, because the first time they fire any rifled unit, they will get a +1 DRM. So when you place your rifled units, so this one up here, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and put this down on this Sheridan's unit to show that it will get a +1. And I'm going to also put the other one on the militia unit with Swamp Fox to show that they will get a +1. You do that at the beginning of the scenario in setup. I didn't do it because, like I said, there's only 2 and just not that much to keep track of in this scenario. But we'll go ahead and do it now just to remind us so we don't forget. So I'll put that on the South Carolina militia. So no rifle fire. And now we go into close combat. Well, no one's in range here of close combat with any enemy units. And then part of the close combat, remove pin markers, and there's no pin markers out there. And that is going to do it for the British turn. So they had the initiative. They were able to scramble their units out. And I'm kind of wondering now really what the big deal is with having the initiative on turn 3, if it really matters all that much. I mean, the Americans would have gotten to move, I guess, but I don't know if that's an advantage or not. Well, all that aside now, let's go ahead and zoom back out. All right, here we are zoomed back out. So we've had the British forces have moved forward outside the encampment. We've moved up this dragoon with the this light unit, this rifled unit, and they are heading up this way to try to see what they can do about Swamp Fox. Now, as a side note here, and to go off the rails a little bit and talk about something outside of the game, this to me is a little, I don't know how you would handle this either, so it's probably a designer question, and this is the problem with, I'm playing solo, that presents its own challenges, but even if you were playing this multiplayer, it makes you wonder, I mean, would the British even know that Swamp Fox is up here? Would they know that Swamp Fox and the South Carolina militia were coming down this road? Here it seems kind of gamey to me that I sent these units this way to try to engage Swamp Fox, even though they're up on a hill and then Swamp Fox is coming down this road in the swamps. Would they even know he's coming that direction? I don't know. It seems a little gamey to me, but there you go. So enough of the digression. Let's go back to the game. These guys are nevertheless headed that way to see what they can do about Swamp Fox. The British have moved forward. I'm going to flip now the game turn marker over. Well, I'm going to flip it over completely. But now I'm going to flip it over to the American side to show now it is the Americans' turn. So let's go ahead and grab the sequence of play again. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to replace our reinforcements, which I've already done. Disrupted units may move only 1 hex. We have no disrupted American units to move, no shattered units, no pinned units. Now we may conduct movement and strategic movement. So let's start down here with our reinforcement. No, let's go ahead and start with the units that are up front. And let me take a quick look here to make sure there's not any more of those dragoons. There is an artillery unit, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The artillery unit's not going to get up there in time really to do anything. But the question's going to be, do we want to do anything about this forging party, and where do we want to bring these troops in? Let's go ahead and zoom back in so we can do some movement. on this part of the game board. All right, I think I've got everybody squeezed in here, even these reinforcements. So let's go ahead and decide how we want to move these units. And we will start with this one that's frontmost. We've got the Palmettos and we've got another light unit there, Lee's Legion. 3 strength points worth of units. So 1, 2, 3. And we've got this foraging party still in the way. I'm just going to run them forward. So let's go ahead and take this stack, and it's going to go 1, 2, 3. And we have these dragoons, 2 I believe, right? 2 dragoons, and they can move 6, 12 if they're moving strategically. Now, which way do I want to send these dragoons? So we could send one or both down around this way, but I'm looking, there's some swamp down here. Let's take a quick look at the terrain effects chart for dragoons in the swamp. And as I suspected, it's prohibited, so they can't go through the swamp. What about through forest? It costs 2 movement points to go through the forest, so we could move this way and through this forest. We might want to do that. And we also got some black oak, I believe that is up there. Blackjack oak. Dragoons are prohibited in that as well. So I could split these dragoons. I think they're both identical in strength. The morale for the Lee's Legion is a little higher though. I'm going to split these up. Probably shouldn't do this. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not... I haven't played this game enough to know strategy or anything like that. We're just going to split them up though. So this guy's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, maybe we want to send them up and around and kind of harass the flanks. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. I don't want to really take them into combat yet, so I'm just going to move those forward for now. And this guy's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that looks like that is I'm looking because it's not clear. The forested hex that it entered, there's some green under that. So that looks like it is, I guess it's still clear. And maybe that's just heavy woods. Maybe that's the difference. So heavy woods on the terrain effects chart, I don't see any difference between forest and heavy woods, unless it's staring me in the face and I just don't see it. I'm going to say that's a valid move. So actually, I'm looking at the terrain effects chart. So what it is there's light forest and then there is heavy forest. So it would be 2 movement points to enter this. So where did we start here? So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be 6, 7. He could still do it, and I'm just wondering if I want to do that. Now, I could also bring him back up here to help harass the foraging party. But I'm going to leave it like that. And now we have this leader is still back here. He can go 6. Let's hold off on him for a second. We've got the militia unit and the artillery. Looks like we have another artillery unit coming up. This one could go 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't want to move him. I think we're just going to move him up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to keep these together. So they're going to come up with the artillery, and then this leader is also going to follow along with this artillery. And then Pickens unit can go 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just move him up as well. And then the reinforcements, so let's see. Let's go ahead and let's split these out. There's some pretty strong units in here, and there's green. I thought I saw another artillery unit. So yeah, let's move the other artillery unit first. So starting at hex A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to move a militia unit with it. And then these 2, I guess these are regulars and green. 6, so, and green doesn't count towards the stacking limit, so green can move with those units. And they can go up to 8 strategically, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They can get right behind the Pickens unit, and let's do that then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This unit is with that unit, and then green is going to be with that unit. And we have one more Well, we have 2 more units we need to move, and that is Swamp Fox and the South Carolina Militia. So let's go ahead and move the camera up north so we can take a look at that. Here's Swamp Fox and the South Carolina Militia. So we're just going to bring them along the road. Now, Swamp Fox can move into the Santee River, but I'm not going to do that. There's this Nelson's Ferry here, and let's see how that affects movement. I'm going to grab the terrain effects chart. It should be on here. There it is. Nelson's Ferry. Movement cost is 2 for militia, infantry, and light infantry. I believe this is a light infantry unit. Swamp Fox is. But that rifled unit is not. So Swamp Fox, it would cost him 2 to enter the Nelson's Ferry hex. So let's go ahead and move Swamp Fox first. He can move 5, 10 if we decide to use strategic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now to get up that slope, it's another +1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be 6, 7 to get up the slope. So we couldn't quite get up the slope. So let's go ahead and just move him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could use strategic movement to get him up the slope. So it would be 6, 7. Now, I don't want to leave this unit too far behind though, so you can go 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 5, 6, 7. So I could get them a little further forward here. And the other thing to consider is this unit will be able to move into close combat range. When I do that, firing down, so let's look at firing down the slope. What does that do for combat? Looks like nothing. I'm just going to move, let's go ahead and just move them to the top of the slope. And this unit will do the same thing. So it can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, it can move 8 with strategic movement, but we're not going to move 8. We're just going to move him up to here. Let's give him his diral modifier marker back. So come up the slope of this road. Now they can probably see each other and see what's going on. So that's going to be it for movement for the Americans. So let's go back and grab the sequence of play, the expanded sequence of play, which I really like on the back of the series rulebook here. That's movement. We would now go into the rally phase, but there's no American units that require a morale check. Defensive artillery fire, so there's artillery getting close to each other, but no one's close enough to conduct fire. Let's go ahead and zoom back out again. So we do have artillery, but again, defensively, so it would be the British would be firing defensively here. And well, I say there's no defensive fire. So wait a second, we do have these 2 dragoons that are now within 1, 2, 3. And I don't think this dragoon is in line of sight though, because there is the light woods here, or light forest here, and heavy forest here. But let's take a quick look and see if perhaps that artillery unit could fire. So line of sight is always traced in this game anyway from the center of the hex. And I can already tell this is going to be blocked, but we'll do it anyway because we are trying to learn the game. So this artillery unit, if you trace center to center, it goes through this light forest, and then from this one, it's going to hit the edge of this light forest. And looking at the rulebook, must be able to trace clear line of sight. Line of sight is traced from the center of the firing hex to the center of the target hex. So that is going to be blocked. And blocking terrain is forest, light forest, slope, up and down. And again, it reminds us to double check the exclusive rules. I have done that, so there's nothing in there. So I'm going to say that they cannot fire in this situation because they can't see those dragoon units. Now you could fire into one of those wooded hexes if you had line of sight, but you can fire into, but not through. So we're going to say there's no line of sight there for the British defensive artillery fire. And so now we're going to go to conduct rifle fire. Now we do have rifled units here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so 3 hexes away. Can they possibly conduct rifle fire here? And as I start to look up this rule, I forgot. No, actually they can't, because you have to be adjacent to conduct the rifle fire. So there will be no rifle fire here. Too many World War II games firing rifles, and Civil War games where you could certainly fire from probably 3 hexes away. So they cannot conduct rifle fire. And that will take us to the close combat phase. Well, we've got a close combat problem down here with these poor foragers. So let's zoom in. Okay, so here we are all zoomed in. I'm going to remove the disrupted marker or put it off to the side here. And we must conduct combat here, so we are going to do that again. I don't know in game turns why I couldn't just, like I said, pick this forging party unit up after it was disrupted. I don't think it's adding much to the game, but we're going to leave it in and play it as intended, I guess. So we have these two units, Lee's Legion, and it looks like there's 3 strength points worth of units there. So let's go ahead and go into let's go ahead and go into the close combat phase. We're already in it, but I want to go into the close combat sequence of play here now. So this says step 1, determine the odds. So the odds are, and remember, a disrupted unit, its strength points are halved, I think it said. It's not going to matter here because they have 1, and I don't think you can have less than 1. I think it's going to round up to 1. Yeah, half the strength points rounded up, so it's going to be 1. And we'll have to remember some additional things here concerning the results of this combat. So the odds here are going to be 3 to 1. The 3 strength points to 1. That's our odds, 3 to 1. Determine lead units. Again, for the forging party, they have to be the lead unit because that's the only unit there. For ours, well, not ours, for the Americans, we can either choose Lee or the Palmetto foot. And remember, when choosing these units, the lead unit will have to advance if the unit is destroyed or retreats. So in this case, whoever advances will be in range of defensive artillery fire for the next turn, and that's something to consider. I don't think it's going to matter too much here. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Lee's unit is going to be the lead unit. So let's do that. We picked our lead units, and now it says to cavalry or Indian withdrawal. We don't have to worry about that. Determine die roll modifier. So let's go through that. Again, we're going to grab the player's aid card here because it's all right on there. So the attacker benefits. Adjust the morale of the attacker's lead unit. That is a +1. Close combat of attacking commander. There's no commanders. The defending unit is not a rifled unit. The defending unit is disrupted though, so there's another +1. So now we're at +2. Let me grab a D6 so that I can remember what we're at here. And I'll throw this up on the screen too so we can step through it. We're at +2 so far because that is a disrupted unit. Is it a mounted dragoon? No. Is it defending militia? No. Is it surrounded? No. And is it in Nelson's Ferry? No, but that's something to remember for Swamp Fox, but he's already out of Nelson's Ferry. Now we go to the defender's benefit. So we adjust the morale of the defender's lead unit. So it's a -1 again. So that's +3. And there's no commander. It's not a rifled unit. Militia, no. No creeks, no ravines, not in Blackjack Oak. Not in the meeting house, not surrounded, and it is not Swamp Fox. So that is that. So those are all of our die roll modifiers. We're at +3 for the Americans. And now we're going to go to our tactics. So let's do that. And for that, again, I'm going to use the solitaire tactics table. And again, remember the way we do this is there's a flow chart and it says, all right, are we engaging without a leader? Yes, again, we are engaging without a leader. And I'm looking at the flowchart on this table again. I'll throw it up on the screen so we can take a look at that again. And it says, is withdrawal plausible? Now, I want to shout out thanks here to the comment that was left the last video I posted. And I was cautioned over the word plausible, not possible. And it's a huge difference. Plausible is withdrawal possible? Well, yeah, withdrawal is possible because they can go back this way, this way. So yeah, it's possible, but is it plausible? In other words, think of it, is it realistic? Are these units, would it make sense that they would withdraw in the situation where they're attacking a foraging party? No, I don't think they would. So I think the plausibility here is no. So withdrawal is not plausible. And again, the key word there is possible versus plausible. So I'm going to go with that this time. And so that would tell us to use table number 2, and it says engage without a leader, withdrawal not plausible. And that's going to put us on this number 2 table. And it says to roll a D6. So I'm going to roll a D6. Remember, this is for the Americans, and I'm using my D6 for counting points. I'm going to switch this out so I can use my D6. So a D6, and let's see what we get for the tactics for the Americans. If we get a 1, so a 1 on this is a skirmish. So let me grab the cards and pull skirmish out for the Americans. So that's their tactic. And then we are going to Now do the same thing with the foraging party. So again, the foraging party, go back to the table, engage without a leader, yes. Is withdrawal plausible here? Well, yeah, it's really plausible because they've got the American Armed Forces in their face, so they definitely would withdraw if they could. So it says use table 1 and throw a D8. So let's grab the D8. If I can find the D8, here it is. So I'm going to roll the D8 and see what the tactics will be for the British. They roll an 8, and an 8 on this table is skirmish, so skirmish and skirmish. So let's grab the skirmish card for the kind of a stupid thing to do for the foraging party. So skirmish and skirmish, and again, we simply look at the matrix table here for the tactics, and it's on the card there as well if you'd like to read along. So tactics matrix, the attacker is on skirmish, and we look down to skirmish and we see there's a 0. So no modifier for that, but we are at a +3 for this die roll. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move these cards. Let's see if we can't get the dice tower in here. I should have had it in there for those checks I just did, but you didn't miss anything because I read them as I rolled them. But I think you would probably prefer to see the actual die rolls. So let's see if I can get this in here. All right, so we have, let's see, the close combat table. We are on the 3-to-1 column, and we are going to roll a D10 and see what we get. So this is for the Americans. They are firing, or not firing, or it's close combat. And that's an 8 + 3. Ouch, that's 11. So looking at the close combat table on the 3-to-1, we look down. It is an 11 result, and the 11 has a dot by it. That would normally mean we would gain momentum, but because it's the foraging party, that is not going to happen. And then it says captured, attacker's choice. So basically, we've captured the remains of the foraging party. So I'm going to take this disruption marker and move it out of the way. I'm going to take the foraging party and move them out of the way. We'll just put them in the captured units on the board, showing that we've captured those foragers and took their sweet potatoes from them, and now we have them in our grubby little paws. So that is going to be it for, well, that's not quite it for close combat. Normally, we would also check to adjust the army morale here and check for momentum, chits, and those kinds of things. But again, the foraging party does not allow for that. So let's go ahead now and advance our Lee's Legion forward 1 hex. We crushed the evil foraging party. So let's get all this stuff out of the way. We will zoom back out here. All right, we are zoomed back out. We have resolved all close combat, and this is how we stand after that close combat result. Foraging party has been eliminated. The Americans are really close now to engaging the British forces, and we're going to see that here pretty soon. So let's go ahead and finish, move the game turn marker, and flip it over. So we've reached the end of turn number 3, and we are going to now go into the 4th turn. We've had the British went first, the Americans have gone, so we will be going now into turn number 4. Let's go ahead and advance the turn marker. We'll move it up to turn number 4, above turn number 4. We don't know who's going to have the initiative for turn number 4 yet. It'll be the first time we actually have to determine through a die roll who's going to have the initiative. So that's what we have to look forward to in turn number 4. I will go ahead and end it here. I want to try to keep the turns by themselves and shorter. So I think this one's probably going to be about 20 or 30 minutes. They may get longer as we actually start getting into combat, and that's okay. But I think I'm going to keep them in separate turns, so that way if someone's learning the game, they can look at 1 turn at a time, just to make things a bit easier. So we will stop it here, and we have some combat coming up. Hope you come back for turn number 4. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. That helps the channel immensely. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That also helps the channel. I look forward to seeing you back here next time. Thanks for watching.